Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Golf Business Live. I'm your host, Michael Williams, and this show is brought to you proudly by the good folks at Tag Marshall. We love them. You will love them, too. This show is going to be really just a cross-section, a core chunk of goodness. For this show, we have just the one segment, but boy, what a segment it is. This is our owner-to-owner chat. You know, we really want to talk to the guys who make this game happen, just like you. And today we have two of the very best people, two of the best owners that I could possibly think of. First, we have Dill Ratcliffe, who's the president of Ratcliffe Golf Services and COO of Pinnacle Golf Properties. His resume is far too big to read on this show. It would take up the entire segment. Also joining us is Whitey O'Malley, the GM and owner of Saddleback Golf Club. And he is, of course, the incoming president of the NGCOA. We have a past president. We have an incoming president. I couldn't be more excited. Whitey, Del, welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on board. You know, you didn't miss when you're talking about wide. My belly would take up the whole screen here if I had the wide camera on too. So,
you know, we got to improve our technology. You know, you're always taking it to the next level in operations. So this is just a note that we need to make ourselves better. You don't need to be smaller. We need to be better. Whitey, do you concur?
Yeah, and I 100% concur. Del, congratulations on that article that was I just read in the business journal. Yeah, how much did you pay for that? That was a really good press.
I'm still paying for it. Whitey. You know, Harry was kind of in on that too. So you know, but
that was a nice article.
I got the flux capacitor right here behind me. So you know, that's kind of helping fund a lot of this stuff that we're doing these days. So.
Well, while we keep you in this century, okay, we don't want you going back to 1955. We'll just get a few questions in, and then you can travel wherever you want to.
There we go. All right, that sounds good.
Well, I just got to ask both you guys. It's been one heck of a year, I think, in any way you want to measure it for golf. So, Del, I'll go to you first. Golf operations, one of the highs in course participation and number of golfers, all that sort of thing. Is it as good as the number suggested it is?
Absolutely. I think, you know, one of the things we've been talking about now, Michael, since COVID hit, every year we're kind of saying, okay, this may be, we probably peaked. We need to kind of be thinking, okay, things probably going to start tapering off and maybe slowing down. We don't think that it's going to go back to what it was pre-COVID. Every year we've been fortunately proven wrong. 2025 so far has been the same way. You know, we're seeing strong support and continued resilience across all of our markets. People are coming out, they're enjoying golf more. You know, I remember when we were in 2020, we were talking about the new normal and what was the new normal going to be. You know, we kind of felt like it was a temporary bump because we closed down all of our competition. You really didn't have any choice. Golf was about the only thing that you could play when we were really under the social distancing restrictions, you know. But the reality is so many people have discovered golf and realized, hey, this is a great fun activity, even when there are other things that we are competing against. And so they're continuing to come to the game. We're seeing people come out in droves. We're seeing new faces on the golf courses. And so we're very upbeat. We're very pro golf right now. I think it's going to continue much longer than what we originally thought it was going to continue. We're certainly seeing that.
Whitey, I guess you're seeing the same thing at your golf courses and in your operations, a real positive tone to the whole golf business. Yeah. Yeah.
The numbers are still really good. Not as high as 2020, but they're, you know, 50-60% better than they were in 2019. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really just been a constant growth upwards. And one of the things that really has gone upward along with the numbers is the level of technology I've noticed. You know, on this show, in the industry, every place you look, technology is really ramping up in the industry. What are some of the new technologies that you're finding are useful in your operation?
Oh, that's a great question because that's one of the biggest things that we've been working on recently is we're getting a new range picker and a mower for our driving range, and the range picker will actually pick the range and then dump the balls into a bucket that blows it up into our washer that automatically washes it and blows it into our dispenser. So it's going to be a pretty autonomous all the way through a system. And so we're having a little bit of a problem with the Toro's buying, I think it was Echo, and we're in transition of getting that mower. And so we might just end up buying it from Echo as opposed to our Toro dealership, even though they bought them. So that was one of the challenges that we're working on right now. But we're getting all that set up. And then we have a beverage machine that dispenses beers. So we have two of those machines out on the course, and we couldn't get power out there, so we bought solar panels, and it's actually quite a bit more sophisticated than a beverage person or a bartender, because each and every sale is validating that you're a valid age. So that's another thing that we're kind of going through the test waters on how much we like it or don't like it, and what the challenges are there. And the third one is the autonomous mowers on the rest of the course, where I'm hell bent in 2 years to be fully autonomous in all my mowers.
Insane.
So
that's really crazy. And note to self, I'll be out to do some product testing on that beer machine.
Yeah. Del, are you doing any autonomous mowers, Del?
We are. Actually, it's funny. We had a demo we were looking at yesterday. We're still in kind of that evaluation stage. It's funny, as much as I'm involved in technology on a lot of stuff, if it's not something we're doing, we're not really early adopters. I'm going to let you do it, Whitey, and you can call me up and tell me, when it works. I will say this much about it. The autonomous mowers have been in development for a long, long time. And we were actually a beta site for one company that was one of the big name companies that was doing it one time. I'll never forget one of the experiences we had in watching that mower go across the hill and head straight toward the creek with glass on the back of it. And the guy's chasing over the hill trying to catch it before it got there. So I've seen, and again, I think that is absolutely where the market is going right now. I think that we are going to get to that point. I'm just not certain that it's at that point where it's appropriate for all of us.
Let me interrupt you there, Del, because, I was thinking about how I'm no longer an early adopter because it's been out there. And there's like Randy, I can't remember his last name, up there in the Northeast somewhere. He has 22 of them on his course. And I'm thinking I'm just past the early adopter stage, but our fairway mowers they're like 16 years old. So we priced two hybrid ones, right? Which are a little bit better than what we have because they're hybrid, but they're like $104,000 each. So that's $210,000. Yet I can get a Firefly or Husqvarna autonomous mowers for less. So now it's a function of, do I buy the old technology, or do I pull the trigger and go with something that's going to be a little bit less expensive and get rid of that labor?
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think that there's the market is still, I say early adopter, but the market's still evolving on those mowers and everything too. I think that some of the when you look at the units, the mowing units themselves, some of the cutting technology, we're still not quite where we are with some of the, for example, the lightweight fairway mowers that we've got and some of the other bigger area mowers that we have on the golf course. So I get it. I think that it's something that, and again, we're evaluating. We just haven't pulled the trigger on any of our courses yet. I'm not saying we won't. By the end of the year we may, but right now we're kind of still a little bit in the evaluation stage is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to stop this right here, this particular subject, because we can open up a whole new podcast called Turf Management Today. And I'm submitting that to Harry. We're going to be able to do that. So that's really fascinating information. Again, we can go on for hours about that. But I want to skip to another subject, which is the water issue. And as good as the game is going, as we get to the West, one of the defining issues is water, how it's used, how much there is, and that sort of thing. And Whitey, I know that's been a very critical issue for you. What's the latest? What's the update on water usage and where it stands? And are golf course owners getting a fair shake in this discussion?
Well, that's a great question, because the Colorado River Compact, which affects a tremendous amount of people, golf courses in my area are it's coming up in 2026. And the rumors are floating around is that we're not making much headway. And the new administration is going to appoint a Bureau of Reclamation head of the position, and we don't really know what position they're going to take. So you got essentially the upper basin states and the lower basin states, and they're competing for this limited amount of water. And it all kind of stems off of back in 1924 or something like that. It was a hell of a long time ago. They judged how much water there was in the Colorado River. So there's been a tremendous amount of improvements on irrigation, on golf course irrigation, but man, there's going to be this is going to be a drop down battle in 2026 coming up to that a term when it has to be renegotiated. So it's going to be super interesting here shortly.
And Del, I don't know if you have the same problems as they do out west, but I know you do have water issues. What is that whole subject looking like for you and your operations?
Well, we're fortunate in that most of the courses that we have primarily in the Southeast, water is an issue, but it's certainly not as much of a challenge as what Whitey and the states out in the West are facing, because we don't have one major river that is supplying so many different needs, but we're seeing increased regulations on water use all the time. We've got a number of courses now that we're using reclaimed water on. We didn't used to always do that, so we're doing a lot of reclaimed water. There's a lot of reporting requirements that we have. Fortunately, most of our areas we're not paying for water. That's a big difference as well. A lot of particularly in the Southwest, golf courses are having to pay for water. It's a significant impact on those, and we're reporting drawdowns and how much water we take out of both the surface water resources and also what we pump out of the ground for anything that we're bringing out of the aquifers and all. But it's not nearly as big of an issue as it is unless we enter into a drought situation. We enter into drought situations, things tend to get restricted and everything then. But we're much more fortunate than our comrades out there that are really struggling with this. And again, to Whitey's point, one of the things that really, if you look down the road at some point, there's something's going to have to give. There's more water allocated than what they actually have to allocate there, and how the solution to that is arrived at. I don't see how it is. You can only cut it so thin.
Amen to that. What you just said. It's only going to get more and more, let's say, interesting as the old Chinese curse goes. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that and see how we can advance the issue, certainly to the favor of our operators out in the West. I want to turn your attention to something called dynamic pricing. Dynamic tee times. There's been a lot of talk about everybody's laughing at that. We have a lot of talk about legislation, controlling that and that sort of thing. Del, I'll stay with you. What's the first thing that pops into your mind when I say dynamic pricing? Is it good, bad, indifferent? What does it look like for you?
Well, honestly, as a business person, I think it's a good thing, but it's something that, the people that are trying to legislate and control pricing with that really don't understand what they're dealing with in it. Dynamic pricing is really a reaction to supply and demand, okay, at any level. And whether you realize it or not, we've had dynamic pricing for a long time, but it's actually what I call static dynamic pricing. For example, in golf, we have weekday rates, we have twilight rates, we have weekend rates. The weekend rates are generally higher because we have more demand during that period. Well, that is essentially dynamic pricing. The only difference is we're not repricing in an active live mode with that. We're setting higher prices during higher demand periods. So true dynamic pricing is really just reacting to that same thing. It is pricing appropriate to the level of demand. And it takes place in a lot of other industries other than just golf. Airlines do it all the time. Hotels do it all the time. Sports venues do it all the time. If you go and if you want to buy a ticket to a concert someplace, you are not going to have one price that everybody in the entire stadium pays. It's dependent on when they buy it and what seating they're getting. And there's all kind of dynamic pricing that is going into effect on those type things. So golf is certainly not in its own silo in implementing dynamic pricing, but we're getting caught up in some of these things of looking at it. Well, the other side of it is, and I've even had this conversation. I think Whitey's probably sat in on some of our owners' meetings where, people raise the issue of gouging. Okay, is dynamic pricing gouging? Are you taking advantage of somebody? Well, the answer to that, in my opinion, is absolutely not. Gouging is when you have a certain commodity that's in high demand but limited resources that people need to have. For example, gas during a hurricane. Okay, they have no way of getting it, and if you're taking advantage by charging an exorbitant price for a commodity that they can't get somewhere else that they need, that is gouging. Okay, nobody's holding a gun to somebody's head and telling them you have to play a round of golf. If someone else is willing to pay more for a round of golf at my golf course at a certain time, I feel like I should have the right to be able to charge the person that's willing to pay the higher price. That's just what it boils down to.
That's a fascinating little point of view there. Whitey, I want you to take the same question. Dynamic pricing, good, bad, indifferent. What's your view on the whole matter?
I got two thoughts on that. First is you look at Dell and he's got that halo over his head. So if he is the, are you going to Photoshop, if he's got a halo and he's the angel, am I going to get some horns? Are you going to Photoshop horns in on me?
We can sort that out in post-production, definitely.
That's going to be us, yeah. So,
we need to superimpose some in there. Yeah.
I just sat in, I listened to the podcast with Jay Karen and the senator from New Mexico yesterday, and she's hitting it right on the head. It's essential services that are going to be really brought to bear on the dynamic pricing gouging. So, and on 4th of July, our dynamic pricing does go up on the round from the morning to the evening. But it's not like Dell just said. It's not an essential service. It's not food on the table. It's not diapers. It's not toilet paper. So I think it's gonna be a very sensitive and a hard thing to legislate because there's a lot of nuances to it, and it's gonna be one of those things where like pornography, you know it when you see it, but it's gonna be hard to legislate. So.
Yeah, I want to make one more point on that, Michael, too. I think that the extrapolation of what the whole theory of is in trying to control dynamic pricing, I bring it back to people, something we can understand as individuals on our individual terms. Let's say if you have a house, okay, and you're selling a house, and you put your house up for sale for $500,000, and you get multiple people that are interested in buying your house, and one person says, I'll pay $500,000, another person says, I'll pay $550,000, and a third person says, I'm going to pay you $650,000, okay? Should you be required to take the price that you ask? Would we legislate and say you have to take the $500,000? No. If someone's willing to pay a higher price, and again, nobody's forcing them to do that, why would a business be required to take a lower price than what someone's willing to pay for whatever that might be at that time? That's my point on it. I think that we're in a real difficult situation if we're trying to regulate that from a legislative standpoint.
And this all has to do with, again, the idea of both maximizing your profit in any given business day, and also growing the game, because there's that idea of, there's people who can pay the X plus 5, but do you want to charge X because it's in the affordability range for more people? So as usual, it's your challenge as a business person. You gotta go with you, Dell, and then you, Whitey.
Well, I'll just say one thing. Okay, there are really two types of golfers. We have time-conscious golfers. We have price-conscious golfers, okay? We have a lot of people that say, you know what, I've got to have that 9 o'clock tee time because I got to get my round of golf in, then I got to get home, mow the yard, take out the trash, and take the family out to dinner. And so they're willing to pay more for that 9 o'clock time. But there are people who say, I'm more price-conscious. I don't want to pay that kind of money. One of the things that dynamic pricing does just as a function of what it does is it will move those price-conscious people to the less peak demand periods. They have the option to play, but they would be paying a lower rate at times when someone else isn't willing to pay more. And so it boils down to the whole thing of, who's willing to pay for what the particular service might be. And again, as long as it's not, to Whitey's point, as long as it's not an essential service, I don't see what the harm is in being able to charge what the market is willing to pay for a given time.
Sounds like America at its best. Whitey, I give it to you.
I'm going to say the same thing. The monies that we are making for people that are more time sensitive and willing to pay more, like I'm taking the increased revenue and we're putting it into a $300,000 building for a teaching center. So that's going to grow the game, but it's all kind of got to feed on itself. It's not a race to the bottom. It's a race to the top. But when you can, if you can take that money and put it back into growing the game, which we are, and we're putting our money where our mouth is, then then somebody that wants to play at 4 o'clock, they can pay $35 for the cart. So it all comes out in the wash if you're putting your money back into growing the game. Otherwise,
yeah, it all comes down to availability. You guys having the flexibility to make availability there for more people at a price they can afford, and enables you to also make the profit that you need to make more improvements to the course, and the whole thing is a big circle. So again, it's all part of that great thing that we call golf and the business of golf. I kind of love it, and I love it that you guys have to deal with it, not me. So all I have to do is just look at the prices and pay the lower one. Before I go, Dell, you served as NGCOA president before Tom Brooks, I believe.
No, I was actually president of the North Carolina chapter. I was never president of the National Association, Michael. So that's my role as a chapter, not the overall national.
I'll just say that I was dealt this note. So I'm reading this note
if
right
find
now.
out whoever it is and tell them I'm not getting my residual. I'm not getting my pension check from that, and they need to correct that. Be sending me that money, okay?
Okay, and I'm getting tax from.
Whoa, now. Okay, I gotta pop in here for a second. All right, I do a lot of things for the NGCOA, and every once in a while we make a little mistake. And
can we keep this? Just keep this in the show, though. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. And if I get chewed out for it, well, people need to know I'm the content manager, and that one's on me.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem. I should have the list of NGCOA presidents memorized. I don't. I was going to do that on my last flight, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it today. All presidents will be memorized. Well, I'm going to skip over to Dell because I think congratulations are in order. I think you just acquired a new course in Florida, and I just for acquisition. I just want to give people some back. I've been involved in an acquisition of a golf course, but it's an emotional thing. Ups and downs, high lows, negotiations. You're ready to quit. You're ready to walk away. And then you're so excited when you finally close that deal. So first, I'll say congratulations. And also, can you give us a little backstory on what the course is like and what that whole process was like?
Absolutely. So first of all, this is our company, Pinnacle Golf Management. We are a management company, and Pinnacle itself doesn't really own courses. We manage for other third parties, and this is one of our really good clients, Walden Golf Group, which is owned by Mr. Stephen Shore. We have a number of other properties that we manage for Mr. Shore, and this is one of his latest acquisitions in the Florida market. It's called Serenoa. Serenoa is in the Sarasota area. It was previously managed and owned by Advance Golf, and Advance is actually one of our really great management companies we got in the business. You know, those guys are longtime friends of ours. We've had a great relationship with Advance through some of our technology solutions. They were one of our early users of our Pitch CRM marketing platform, and great folks. So this one was really kind of an easy transition for us, Michael. It's a great property. It's in a great market, and it is our first foray, as you mentioned, into Florida. So now we span from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and into Florida with course properties that we have. And we've got some other properties in the pipeline that are going to be coming along shortly after that, too. So we're kind of expanding our footprint. Very exciting time to be in golf. And to your point, the whole thing of this with technology, I don't think that we would be able to do what we're doing right now without leveraging technology in a whole number of areas. We're talking about doing a 20, 30-minute show here between Whitey and I. We could probably do 20 hours of technology, in golf, and what we could actually be doing in applying that in our business, and how you can use it to make your business more profitable, but more efficient at the same time, and allows you to do more. So, we're really scaling the operations that we're doing, and we're able to really refine what we're doing and hopefully deliver not only a good product to the general public, but also a profitable operation to the owners for which we're representing in the third-party relationship manner.
Well, when it comes to doing another show that has to do with operations and all that, from your lips to NGCOA's ears, because I would be more than happy to do that with you guys on a weekly basis. Really, there's so much to cover, so much to go, so much new that's coming into the game. Whitey, I got to ask you, I don't know if you're in acquisition mode, but is that something that interests you? The game is growing your portfolio something that you look at on a regular basis?
Absolutely not. We have one. We run it well. We have a good team, and no, we're not looking for another one. I mean, there is opportunities out there. I'll guarantee you that, and there's some low hanging fruit out there. But no, we're just interested in running one and doing it the best we can.
Yeah. I mean, and then there's that too. So it's the two sort of ways of looking at things: the growth, getting bigger, getting more acquisition, lowering your numbers, and then perfecting one diamond like Saddleback. That's another way of looking at it. So there's certainly room at the table for both of those points of view. I just wanted, before I let you guys go, I know Whitey, you're coming into your presidency at NGCOA. So again, congratulations on that. Del, I know you served in other leadership roles throughout the industry. Is there any advice you would like to give to Whitey before he ascends to the throne?
Oh, wow, man. I think the good thing is Whitey's been in this and kind of been in the game for a long time at a high level, so he already knows pretty much what he's going to be facing on this. I think if there's anything, just watching Rock go through it, I think if Rock Lucas can make it through the presidency, Whitey's going to go through that in $1,000,000. I'm not the least bit worried about it.
Amen to that. You got a point there. Whitey, are there issues that are on your list as you come into your presidency? Are there things that you're already planning to do and to address during your administration?
No, I don't. The agenda, I think, as Kathy Harbin's been kind of pushing it along here, has become, make sure that your golf courses are really beginner friendly and welcoming. I think that's not lost on me, or it should not be lost on anybody in the industry. You should be welcoming. And I think the other thing is we have a goal of 5,000 golf courses in 5 years, and we're going to be into our second year into that now. And as a board, we're hell bent on making that goal. So whatever I can do to help push that along, and maybe get some more ambassadors out there to knock on doors of the local golf courses and say, hey, we're more powerful if we can speak with one voice, and we actually can go to the state house and the Congress and say, we're representing, half the golf courses in the United States. We need you to join. That's pretty powerful. So,
yeah, that is a really, really powerful argument. Del, and as we close, Del, was there anything that you wanted to, more advice you wanted to give, or things we should be looking at for the rest of this year and into the incoming year?
No, I think that, again, we could sit here and talk about a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are happening, Michael. Technology is certainly the forefront of everything that we seem to be doing right now. It's affecting not only like the mowers that Whitey was talking about. We're doing a lot more things like gamification of our driving ranges. And to Whitey's point about growing, participation in golf and welcoming new people into the game, we're seeing that happening at our driving range, where we're putting in things like the top tracer technology. We're really growing our ability to appeal to a wider market. These type of things are appealing to golfers that were not golfers before, but they're coming out, they're using the whole technology and the gamification of the driving range. And we're seeing transition from those people to the green grass golf course right beside that driving range. And so, I think that's part of what we're seeing in terms of sustaining golf. We are making a really good, I'm seeing a very concerted move toward making golf courses more of a social hub of the community, as opposed to just a golf course where people go. We're seeing a lot of activities, everything. We've got golf courses that have wine, beer gardens with them, and, wine areas, and again, the playgrounds even for kids, so it's becoming much more of a social hub than just a golf course. And I'm really excited about the future of golf because of that.
Well, you and me both, brother. I'm completely excited about the game, and two of the reasons I'm excited about it is because we have such good stewards like yourselves to watch over us and take us into the future. Whitey, Del, thanks so much for taking the time today, and I can't wait till I see you again in person. And we've done this completely sober. We have to fix that for the next show.
That's right. You're exactly right on that.